Welcome to the Weird Side. Today, let's look at another real-life accident that occurred in ultra-high temperature environments. Walking in the streets of the city, you should have seen a manhole covered with an iron cover. Some of these manholes are for public water supply or for discharging sewage, and some are for laying various kinds of cables. Some manholes have lost their covers, resulting in injuries and deaths. But one of the most tragic, I think, was an incident that occurred in the United States in 2002. Sean Doyle, 25, was a young man living in Manhattan, New York. He worked as a bartender in a bar. His co-workers described him as small and thin, but funny and kind. He lives in an apartment building not far from the bar, where he works. On the same floor, in another apartment, is Michael Wright, 47, and his girlfriend. Michael is a tall, athletic man. In every way, Sean and Michael are two completely different people. Not only are they more than 20 years apart in age, but their bodies are also very different. But surprisingly, they get along very well. They soon became good friends who could talk to each other. It was a Friday, December 13, 2002. Sean finished his week of work. He was happy to be back home, ready for a relaxing weekend. Just as he was walking into the hallway, he met Michael with his girlfriend on the way out. He said they were going to a bar for a drink to celebrate. Michael also very warmly invited Sean to go with them, and Sean happily accepts the invitation. Sean went home quickly, changed his clothes, and happily went out again with Michael and the others. That night, they went to a few different bars. They had a great time and drank a lot. The next morning, the three of them decided they couldn't drink anymore, so they started walking home. At this time, no one knows what happens. Michael suddenly felt that Sean, who was small in stature, was trying to seduce his girlfriend. Maybe he suspects something, or maybe it was just a figment of his drunken mind. In any case, he relies on his size advantage. He started a one-sided beating on Sean. It was a weekend and there were a lot of people on the road in the early morning. According to several eyewitnesses, poor Sean was like a rag doll. Michael was repeatedly knocked to the ground. At the same time, Sean kept begging Michael to stop. He said his leg was about to break, but that's not all. Finally, Michael lifted Sean up, staggered towards a manhole with a missing cover, and was smoking. The people around him realized what Michael was trying to do. They'd all cry out in surprise, trying to stop him. But it was too late. In a matter of seconds, Sean was thrown by his feet. In a flash, Sean was thrown into the 5-meter deep manhole. Then people heard Sean's heartbreaking screams coming from the manhole. It turns out that there is a hot water line under the street. The pipe had recently ruptured due to aging. Repair workers dug some manholes to investigate the exact location of the rupture. The manhole Sean fell into was one of these manholes. It had a cover, but this night for some reason the cover was missing. The bottom of the manhole was filled with hot water from the ruptured pipe. Boiling hot water and steam were pouring out of it. Sean was like falling into a boiling pot of soup. His pain was palpable. The people around him immediately called the police. Soon police cars, fire trucks, and ambulances arrived. The first police officers to arrive tried to look into the well to see how Sean was doing, but the steam that kept coming out was too hot. The police couldn't open their eyes until firefighters with protective helmets arrived to get a better look. Sean stood waist-deep in boiling water with his hands raised, painfully begging people to help him. But the temperature of the steam in the well was 120 degrees Celsius. The firefighters couldn't get down, so they tossed Sean a rope, hoping he would tie it to his body, so that the rescuers could pull him out. But the high temperatures kept steaming. Sean's body had gradually lost its ability to function. He tried to reach out and grab the rope, but his hands were no longer listening to his brain. The police contacted the hot water supplier. They shut off the main gate of the line, but the hot water in the pit was already there. It would not be able to cool down in a while. There was nothing the rescuers could do but wait for the temperature in the well to slowly drop, as Sean's cries of pain faded into complete silence. Several of the police and firefighters on the scene covered their faces in sadness. It took an hour before Sean's body was retrieved from the well. The coroner said afterwards, Sean's muscles and internal organs had been cooked in hot water. No trauma was found to his head. There were no fractures on his body. So it proved that he was fully conscious when he fell down the well, and then everything that happened to him. He really felt it all. It was a real human tragedy. Michael, who threw him down the well afterwards. He was charged with second-degree murder by the police. But years later, the charges against Michael were inexplicably dropped, and all information on the case was completely sealed. And that was the end of the story. The death of these events is really a pity, but more horrible is to see the tragedy, but cannot be rescued in time, feel the death step by step and end. If you like this type of incident crime mystery video, please consider subscribing to this channel and like this video.